Each day we strive to make it Black home, Black to the future, Black in one piece. Where being Black is a bop, like a song we replay every 3 minutes and 30 seconds of every day. Where being Black is a vibe, all the time. You're listening to TMBP Media with your host, Dr. Tasha. Welcome back to Black in One Piece. I'm your host, Dr. Tasha, the Millennial Black Professor, and you're listening to TMBP Media. Today, we are at the Advanced Learning Library in Wichita, Kansas, and we have our first ever live audience. And we're here as part of the AMPLIFY 365 series, focused on celebrating Black history, life, and culture beyond February, and honoring our lived experiences 24/7, 365. And part of that is focusing on our mental health as well. And so that is why today's special guest is none other than Wichita's very own Shawnta Smith. Shawnta is founder of the Art Project and owner of Be Kind Therapy. Shawnta, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I said Wichita's very own, but I want to confirm, where's your hometown?
Wichita, Kansas.
Okay,
yes.
So yes. Wichita, born and raised. Mm-hmm. And we always like to do a little defrost question. What is your obsession of the week? Are you reading something that you can't put down, watching something that you can't stop watching, eating something that you can't stop eating? It could be anything.
Well, I really have all three of those, but I'll just pick one. I found this bread at Trader Joe's, cinnamon raisin bread. I eat it for breakfast. I have it as a snack in the afternoon and sometimes at night. That's my thing right now.
I love it. Shawnta put me on the high chews, y'all. I'd never had a high chews before last month, and now I'm hooked. So that would be my obsession.
You're welcome.
We met through the Spark Community Business Academy that is put on by Create Campaign. I'm grateful for that experience because yes. I'm from Virginia, and coming here as a transplant, this was the first time I've been this far away from home. So really not having any friends or family in driving distance was an isolating experience. And you can't call everybody your friend. To meet somebody through that program and now really have you as a friend, I'm very grateful for that.
Same. Dr. Tasha has really assisted me in being comfortable with having and taking advantage of opportunities that I probably wouldn't have done on my own because of my own challenges with anxiety. So she's really helped with that, and so I'm grateful for our friendship as well.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, so now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes.
Okay.
Starting with, how do you identify as it pertains to your race and ethnicity?
I come from a multicultural background, but I identify as Black.
And how would you define Blackness? Share a bit about where you think that definition comes from.
I think that's pretty complex. For me, it's about identifying and being comfortable with your culture and immersing yourself in it. The elders, they've made a difference and given me representation. I learned at an early age what it looks like to be a Black woman and be comfortable in my skin. I've been more of an introvert my entire life. You and I met in Create Campaign's course, and I was an anxious mess. I didn't like talking in front of people. It was difficult for me, but going through that experience and really seeing different variations of what Blackness looks like, it allowed me to come out of my shell and really embrace who I am as an individual and as a Black woman and be okay with it.
Ooh, I love that you said that, because some people might define peak Blackness as when we're showing up as our best or when we are accomplishing things. But to me, that's not peak Blackness. To me, peak Blackness is when we are at the height of our joy, when we're laughing, just different experiences that we have and share that we don't even have to know each other is peak for me. Is there anything like that for you where you're like, I love us, I love being Black?
That's every day.
Hey.
That's every day. I love us. I love us as a culture. I love us as a people. Every day, being able to see our communities grow and thrive, I take joy in that. I take joy in being a part of that. It was through my experiences that I had to learn that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to learn more about who you are and be comfortable with that.
What are some of the ways you display your Blackness on a day-to-day basis?
I think it comes out more in my parenting, and if my daughters were here, they probably would echo that sentiment. I try to be genuine and be authentic when it comes to who I am and what I represent.
Have you ever wanted to be anything other than Black?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. We represent a defined and refined ability to do things that sometimes people attempt to duplicate. I think that's pretty cool. For us to be a pillar and to be examples that others want to follow. That's what I'm attempting to do, or hoping that I'm doing for my community and also for my children, because I know that they're watching. They're like little sponges. They soak up everything they see and hear. That's important to represent the best way I can.
How would you describe what it is to be Black in this world?
It can be challenging sometimes to be on all the time, or have that feeling that you have to be on all the time, and trying to determine when is it okay to not be on. When can you turn off some things and not have to feel like, oh, I got to show up a certain way because I'm walking into a certain room, or I have to not be me because I'll be viewed as the loud or angry Black woman in the room. So sometimes that can be challenging, but to me, it's being on all the time, not really having a chance to turn off.
I definitely know that feeling. What would you say Black in one piece means to you?
Black in one piece is loving oneself authentically and unapologetically, being aware of who you are, what you represent, and what you want to either give to yourself as important into yourself to continue to give to others, or what you want to represent in terms of your future, because there is going to be a time where we are not going to be here. I think about, what life am I living now? What do I represent? How does that show up? How does that reflect for my daughters? So it means being me unapologetically and being fierce in the process. Sometimes that can be a challenge, but that's what it means to me.
Shifting gears just a tad, there's something to be said when you're able to take advantage of therapy, for example, and you're doing it with someone who looks like you and may not have lived the exact same life as you, but they have enough of a frame of reference that you don't have to spend half your session explaining that before you get into the nitty-gritty. You are a qualified mental health professional and a licensed master social worker. Can you share a bit about your practice, Be Kind Therapy, and the Art Project?
The Art Project was actually founded in 2020, and it was born out of grief. My cousin Arthur, who we called Art for short, passed from suicide in 2011. That was very challenging for my family as a whole. It still represents a little bit of a challenge today because of the way that we grew up. He was more like a brother. So for us, it kind of left a gap. We, at the time, didn't understand mental health. We, as a culture, as a whole, we don't talk about it. It's something that has a stigma associated with it. Oftentimes, growing up, it's you don't talk about your feelings, you don't talk about your emotions. What happens at home stays at home. So when he passed, it was like an overwhelming sense of guilt from not just myself, but other family members as well. Why didn't we see this? What could we have done different? What signs could we have looked for? A lot of whys and unanswered questions. One thing that was very helpful was recognizing that we as a family, as a whole, did not have the education, knowledge, or resources. So wanting to change that is what helped me move forward in not only getting the help for myself, but also others in my family. So I made it part of my life's work to be an educator when it comes to mental health and what that looks like and why it's so important to take care of yourself mentally, because as a person, you are mind, body, and spirit. That's you as a whole. And if one part of you is not well, the other parts of you are going to be affected. The Art Project stands for Aware, Reach, and Teach. It's created for that purpose, educating the community on what it looks like to be aware of your own mental health and why that's so important, how to reach out, who do I go talk to, how do I know if therapy is a good thing for me? And then teaching that, doing that in seminars or workshops, going to schools, whatever we can do as an organization to help spread the word of mental health awareness and suicide prevention. That's the art project. Be Kind Therapy is something separate. It is my established therapy organization. It is growing, it is booming, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see where that goes. I do in-person and virtual sessions. The pros to the in-person session is that ability to really connect with that person, because you can tell a lot about a person or what they may be going through by their body language. You can't always see that or experience that from a virtual session. The ability to have that connection in person is so important because that helps with building the therapeutic relationship. I don't think that that's not possible virtually, but there's something about the person-to-person interaction that reads more on the pro side. If you don't have that person-to-person, it's hard to read what the person that's receiving the service could be experiencing. I don't have an objection either way because I love what I do. I'm going to meet that person where they're at anyway, whether it be if they decide to do virtual or in person.
I love that you said you'll meet the person where they're at, because virtual makes it so much more accessible. I can count on one hand the number of in-person sessions I've had because I started during COVID. So I was always virtual, and then even when I moved out here, my anxiety had gotten so bad that I couldn't even see myself going out to do anything really. Being able to continue virtually was a blessing. The point you made about the ability to read certain things, it's a testament to your therapist when they have gotten to know you so well that they can do that, because my therapist be getting me right on together. But I'm shocked sometimes at the things that she's able to even virtually ascertain from the way that I'm speaking, the cadence of my speech.
Yes.
Share a bit about how you being Black and a Black woman informs your approach to your therapy practice. You shared experiences with me where someone is surprised that you're a Black woman, but it also, on the flip side of that, can be such a comfort when you see that it's someone who looks like you.
As a clinician, I really, again, want to be authentic and try to meet a person where they're at, no matter their background, ethnicity, race. But really when it comes to being a woman of color and meeting my community where they're at in their mental health needs, I think it's important at times to utilize self-disclosure. That's what's helped when someone does come in and they don't know what to expect, but they see someone that looks like them. It gives a level of comfort. Then when I'm able to utilize my own experience and use self-disclosure, it further helps build that therapeutic relationship that has been helpful to be able to say, hey, not that I completely understand everyone's situation that comes in my door, but to have that level of relatability that really helps.
Can you speak more to that stigma still being there and any other myths that we might hold on to? Sometimes we say something about a thing so much that even when it does start to shift or change or become different, we're stuck in that. I do believe we are seeing more of us seeking support for our mental health, even if we don't really know what it's supposed to look like or how it can look or what it can be like.
A lot of times I hear when a person comes in, and particularly in the Black community, is, oh my gosh, I thought I was gonna have to come in here and spill my guts. Or I thought that this was going to look like you telling me what to do or how to resolve my issues, or I'm gonna have a label, just the idea that it's a bad thing to talk about how you feel, or that you're gonna be looked at or viewed as a weak individual because you're talking about your mental health and your emotions.
That's good. Really, it's the exact opposite, right? Not as a therapist per se, and I'm sure that peeks in, but as Shawnta, what does healing look like?
That can change from day to day, month to month, week to week. It has changed over time. And it goes back to my desire to be authentic. Sometimes that's difficult for people to accept, as if the idea of me just being me is not enough. Healing is being comfortable with me and taking that time to address whatever I feel is important, whether that be my mental health, my emotional health, my spiritual health, my physical health.
What's one practice, ritual, or mindset that keeps you grounded when this work gets heavy?
I journal a lot. And it doesn't even have to be about anything. Sometimes it could just be random words that I'm thinking about that I have to get off my mind, particularly in the morning. One of the things that I do with my daughters every single morning and in the evening, we meditate and we pray, getting those things off of my mind so that I can have a restful night's sleep and wake up prepared for the next day.
Some individuals are at that place where they're thinking, I need help, I need support. I was there at one point and felt very lost in the sauce about what to do. Because of that, I had a lot of trial and error before I found the right fit therapist. Everybody's not gonna keep pushing to find that right fit. It can be very frustrating because, like you said, the idea of spilling your guts and you have to do the intakes and you got to keep sharing this stuff over. It can be a lot. Yeah. So what is some advice that you might give someone who finds themselves in that space? They're thinking about it, but they're on the fence, they're nervous.
Trust yourself. Trust your gut. Finding a good therapist is almost like finding a good pair of shoes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to try on many to know which one best suits and fits you. Trust your intuition because you know you better than anybody else. To identify what is the best fit for you, you have to trust yourself. And it's always important to ask clarifying questions. Is there something in particular you want to know from that provider? Ask them and see if they'd be willing to share. Psychology today is really good, but it can be overwhelming for someone who doesn't know what they're looking for. So I would always say ask for a recommendation, starting with a person you trust. A lot of people go to their primary care physician. Start there with someone you know and trust. Hey, I'm experiencing these levels of difficulty. Do you have any recommendations? If you even know someone, a friend, a family member, if they're seeing someone, ask for a recommendation from that person and go from there. I started with my primary care physician. The person that they recommended, it wasn't a good fit, so I asked my cousin. And we actually see the same provider. Sometimes it's just going to a person you trust and branching out from there.
One of the things I appreciate so much about our relationship outside of our friendship is everything I do for the Millennial Black Professor, Team BP Media, Left on Red. I try to do everything rooted in wellness and well-being.
Yes.
For myself and for others. I touched on being in therapy, but at the end of the day, I'm a mental health advocate, and it's very important to me that any programming that I do, that I have somebody who actually know what they're talking about in the building.
Yeah.
Share with us what is next, what's coming up for the art project, for Be Kind Therapy.
So I'm super excited about the things that I have coming up for the art project. I'm really stoked about being able to get the word out there, to learn about therapy, to break down some of those stigmas and misconceptions, barriers, helping identify resources, even learning what the letters behind a person's name means. There's several different variations of therapists. So really digging in deep and understanding what that looks like. That's the art project. For Be Kind Therapy, my hope is just to continue to grow and really continue to advocate in both spaces for mental health and mental wellness altogether.
I'm excited to hear about all of this. I'm really glad you mentioned the credentials. In my journey of trying to find the right fit therapist, one of the people I ended up with was a counselor, which absolutely, that's wonderful. But the things I needed to work on went way deeper than what a counselor needed to be working on. And so we would be meeting, and it was like talking to one of my girlfriends, we kikiing and all this other stuff. And I was like, I need more than a kiki at this moment. And so I realized that I had to look for something else. But it was really because I didn't understand what those letters behind the name meant. Sometimes it's not necessarily the stigma. Again, it goes back to just not knowing.
Not knowing, right.
And it can be overwhelming as you start, maybe you go on Psychology Today, and just seeing all of the different types of mental health professionals can be overwhelming. You don't know what you need.
The art project is hoping to be able to come out and do a lot more to highlight how that plays into being aware of your mental health. And I recently partnered with WSU's Counseling and Prevention Services. I will utilize the ability to facilitate training surrounding suicide prevention.
That is wonderful. Both of us being entrepreneurs, And I see some in the audience are also business owners. Can you speak a little to mental health as an entrepreneur? Because to me, that is its own beast.
One of the things that I've learned through the journey is being okay with reaching out for help. Being a clinician is about being a person of service. I truly enjoy what I do. Oddly enough, when I was in graduate school, I went to a private Christian school, and it dawned on me during that time that Jesus was the world's first social worker. He was the world's first therapist. For me, my faith and spirituality plays a huge role in how I live my life. That got me through getting started in entrepreneurship and being willing to be vulnerable and open and honest and talk about things. When I was having a challenge, you were always a phone call away or a Google meeting away, bouncing ideas off and expressing how things are concerning. That really got me through. It's interesting that we are here at this point because when I think back over this journey, I can remember meeting with you in the meeting rooms upstairs, talking about this very thing. To actually see it come to life and have this opportunity, it's really bringing things full circle for me.
What I also appreciate is that you, as a therapist, and I don't believe you would mind me sharing this, but that you also are in therapy. And I think some people have a misconception that therapists don't need therapy. So I love that you are leading by example.
I always share that with the people I'm serving. I am a therapist with a therapist because I have to have somebody to talk to as well. This work can be taxing. Just being a living, breathing human being with emotions and feelings, I am not exempt from life's problems. So I go to therapy as well. I rely a lot on my faith and my spiritual walk. I ask for wisdom and discernment. I pray a lot. I try to keep myself out of the way. Showing up authentically means to keep with those regimens that I know have been helpful for me and that have gotten me through, that I know have allowed me to be successful and be in this space. Sometimes you have to read the room and know what you could be stepping into. Sometimes you may not know until you get to that space what it could look like. I did not see myself being a therapist. This was not my first line of profession. I actually started in corrections and I worked with kids. That didn't work out so well. Part of that was the burnout and me taking home everything I was experiencing during that time working with kids. I prayed, Lord, hey, you know my heart, you know I like to serve people. What would you have me do? I knew it was not gonna be nursing because I don't like blood, I don't like guts, I don't like needles. And so I knew that was out, right? So a friend of mine came to me and she talked to me about social work 13 years ago now. And I've been doing it ever since. It really has to do with the person, their desire to want to do the work and do it well, do it to the best of their ability, and do it not just for themselves, but for the people that they're serving. When it was dropped on me, I was like, no, because I got my own set of problems. But this goes back to knowledge and understanding and education. The only representation I had growing up in the African American community of a therapist or a social worker was the person who came to take people's kids out of their home.
Wow.
Right? And so when that was dropped on me, I was like, no, I can't do that. Knowing my background and knowing my experience working with disadvantaged and troubled children, I went away from it for a long time. And everything that I attempted to do before getting into this field was a complete fail. It was a learning lesson, but it felt as if, oh my gosh, I'm not doing well at this. I just went back to the drawing board. Okay, Lord, what would you have me do? And I was led back here. I've heard so many times individuals will come into my office or even just out in the community or people that I've known personally that it's not for us. Black people don't go to therapy or we don't talk about how we're feeling. I've tried therapy when I was a kid. It didn't work. That's not altogether always true. Yes, you may have had a bad experience to begin with, but again, finding a good therapist is like finding a good pair of shoes. Sometimes you have to try many to know what's best for you. It saddens me because I've seen what therapy can do and how it's helpful. There's research that backs it, being in therapy, knowing what it feels like. Some days when I go in, I'm feeling so heavy. And then when I come out, I feel like a totally different person. I feel a little bit lighter because I've been able to not only express myself, but get the tools that I need to actually continue to manage and cope. I'm hoping to help break that stigma that it doesn't work, because it absolutely does.
That's why conversations like this, having a platform like this, it's so important. It's why we have the therapy period shirts. The more you talk about it, the more, I hate to use normalize because it's just so oversaid, but we really do have to normalize therapy in our community. In addition to everything you shared, Shawnta, there's an inherent distrust of the medical field in the Black community, and a valid distrust, and that flows over into therapy and the therapeutic supports that we could be getting. Again, I feel like it's only gonna be through sometimes the anecdotal piece of sharing word of mouth to others that this can help, this is what it's done for me, is what sometimes will make the difference. Hopefully this is contributing to that.
I agree with everything you all said. I will add, in the Black community, the church has a major role in how we cope. So his comments, especially from older generations, pray it away, and that way that has skewed our view in seeking professional help. Where we need to. Black males, there's another layer to that, feeling safe enough as a Black male to say I'm not okay. Where has been the space where that's been common and acceptable? It's those kind of layers. I'm thankful for these kind of conversations to normalize it, and then normalizing it's okay not to be okay.
I really appreciate you said that, because we can do church and therapy. They're not mutually exclusive. It's just ingrained in us, whether it's what happens in our house stays in our house. Also, the implication that if you do seek help, your faith is weak or you're not a quote unquote good Christian. That's very pervasive. We got to break free of that.
Understanding what we are up against because of the color of our skin, that's so important. When we talk about intergenerational trauma and what that looks like, it goes back to education and being able to understand that, yes, just by virtue of being Black, you are going to experience things that other cultures don't experience. As hard as that is to receive, we have to acknowledge that first. And in order for true change to take place, there's typically 3 things that have to happen. You first have to be aware, having spaces like this, being able to talk about things of this nature that are very sensitive, and then you have to accept. That is the part that people struggle with, is the acceptance. And then you adapt accordingly. To be able to address the generational traumas, we have to be willing as generations to adapt. Sometimes that's tough for us, the younger generation, as well as the older generation. That is the piece that I think we struggle with collectively. We are set in our ways, and it's difficult to adapt. So you will not be able to address a specific thing, this thing being intergenerational trauma, if nobody is willing to adapt. You have to be willing to first listen. Reactive listening is very important. But listen and then hear, and then come together to think about effective implementations, whether that be policy and procedure or talking about going to therapy as a family, just being willing to adapt. As a culture, I think that's what we struggle with.
I think part of that too, Shawnta, having a mutual respect for what that adaptation has looked like across the generations.
Right.
Because there's been a period, I haven't heard it as much lately, and that may just be because I have been trying to better monitor my social media use, but there were so many people saying, I'm not my ancestors. It used to make me sick. At the same time, people have asked me what gives me hope for the future, and I'll immediately say Gen Z, because I love the way they are approaching a lot of what's going on today, what's going on within our culture, and trying to break those generational curses and setting boundaries, keeping boundaries. Sometimes there's resistance across the generations to all of that. It's also us having a respect for how each generation has chosen to adapt and
Yes.
approach the issue.
That's a very pivotal thing to remember and think about. You have to have that level of respect in order to get to a point where first you are aware of what is going on, because those that have gone before us, that is what paved the way for us to be able to do the things that we do now, and so on and so forth. So having a level of respect for that is so important. Makes me think about my children. They don't belong to me. They are a gift to me. And so I treat them with the same respect that I would ask that they give to me. Just because they are children does not mean their voices, their thoughts, their feelings don't matter. So if they call my name and say, Mom, I don't say, what do you want? I say, yes, ma'am, how can I help you? Because that is what I would expect for them. So why not give them that same level of respect? I cannot expect my children to do certain things or behave a certain way if I'm not modeling that.
I think we have time for one question, if anyone had a question.
I don't know anyone's stance on the revolution, depending on what your stance is. You can take a question a different way, but what is the best way for someone to be able to protect their mind, their heart, and one another? Whether it's the revolution or in life or in faith or anything like that, where you're caring for people, you're also fighting the same battles these people are fighting. It's important that we take care of ourselves, in addition to being able to have help with those resources, those tools for ourselves. Do you have any advice for that?
Being present, that's so important, because although I'm helping others and being of service, I am also aware of my limitations, and I'm aware of what I can and can't handle. Being present, but also making sure you know where your boundaries are and what you can and can't withstand, whether it be dealing with things in the world as it is now or in general. Boundaries are so important. Sometimes we get entangled and immersed in the roles that we play, not realizing that the roles we manage shift. What I mean by that is I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm an entrepreneur, I am a caretaker. Those are roles that I am in. Those can sometimes intertwine, but understanding who I am at the core, that has nothing to do with my roles. At the core, those are the things that keep me when I'm having a difficult time or allow me to get through things that are tough. Those are things about yourself that without a shadow of a doubt, no matter what you're going up against, those never change. Me being an advocate, me being authentic, me having a spirituality that actually allows me to grow in different facets, those things never change about me. That is what allows me to be able to understand my boundaries and what I can and can't deal with.
Share about what you asked me earlier about guilt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I had to get permission to bring that on home. Earlier today, Shawnta called me and told me something that happened, and she talked about boundaries. She was like, how do you deal with the guilt that you sometimes feel when you have those boundaries? And I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you what my therapist told me. I was saying the same thing, that I'm doing way better about being able to say no without seasoning, not feeling like I have to explain myself and all of that, establishing the boundary, maintaining it. But I still sometimes have those twinges of guilt and just feel bad about it. She was like, it's not about you not having those feelings or not ever feeling bad. She said, if you told me you never felt bad about telling someone no, I might think you're a sociopath. She said it's about not allowing those feelings of guilt to get you to a point where you're betraying yourself. That is what has helped me in those moments where I have that boundary and somebody got me feeling shaky about it. Am I about to betray myself if I move forward with doing this thing for this person? Part of that for me has been prioritizing rest. A lot of the ways I was betraying myself was going, and not getting rest, to the point where I had conditioned my body. I literally couldn't take a nap. I couldn't lay down and shut my mind off and have my body just go to sleep. I'd be jealous of my husband when he talking about he going to take a nap. Like, you know, the person snoring and you sitting there mad. But seriously, just trying to prioritize my well-being and continuing to ask myself, am I betraying myself in this moment? Well, thank y'all so much for coming. Thank you, Shawnta. This has been so good. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so make sure that you check out all the wonderful things that Shawnta has going on in the community with the Art Project, Be Kind Therapy, and until next time, stay Black in one piece.